Welcome to another episode of Preparing for the Unexpected. I'm your host, Alex Fullick, and as always, we like to talk about things related to resilience, business continuity, emergency management, COVID, well-being, anything that helps you, your organization, or your community prepare for, respond to, and overcome adverse situations. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please feel free. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Alex Fullick there. I'm really easy to find, and I do respond to everything I get. Alternatively, you can find me at alexfullick.com. Quick announcement, I will be co-delivering a keynote speech at the Business Continuity Institute conference later this year, November 2022, with Margaret Millett. Really looking forward to that, and fingers crossed it stays as an in-person conference this year. Today, I'd like to welcome back Richard Warne. We're going to continue from our talk the other day, and we are going to talk about business continuity, actually doing business continuity versus compliance and filling out forms. Richard, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Great first segment with the other show. We talked about business continuity and operational resilience. Lots of great information in there. Now, I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on this one because I've seen you write about it. But actually doing business continuity versus compliance and filling out forms. What are your thoughts on that?
For me, it really came down to what I really enjoy and what I don't enjoy, and it split along that line you've just described. So there's the compliance side and the auditing side of the business, and then there's the doing side of the business. And for me, the doing side of the business is always much more rewarding because you really get into the weeds. You get to speak to people, and I'm lucky enough to be a management advisor for a number of different countries across the globe. So for me, it's really interesting because I get to speak to people from different parts of the world and get the local insight and stuff like that. And it helps me understand the company I'm working for. It helps you build relationships with people. It helps you understand the particular challenges of a local market, perhaps, that maybe you weren't aware of before. And when you achieve something or put something in place or solve a problem or respond to an event, it's like an immense satisfaction of pride. Hey, we did this, we prevented this from happening, or we minimized the impacts of what happened, and then go home at the end of the day knowing that you've done a great job. And then on the other side, you have I have to prove I've done all this to somebody, be it an auditor or an inspector or somebody doing due diligence. And I wasn't very long into one of my roles. I was looking after 3 sites, and we took on a new client, and the account manager sent out this huge great spreadsheet, and it had a tab for each department, all these different questions you had to answer. So IT had to answer a tab, and compliance did, and legal, and all the other, and BCP. So they sent me this spreadsheet, and I opened up. There are 180 questions on there.
Wow. You've got time for that.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking, first of all, it took me an inordinate amount of time to fill it out. Unsurprisingly, a lot of questions seem to be the same question asked in a different way. And I ended up saying, oh, please see the answer to 6C, or please see the answer to 7F, because I've already I've already answered. But kind of what I struggle with a bit is nobody really asks you for any meaningful data. So, or whether you call it like an audit or an inspection or whatever format it takes, it's always like a tick box. Have you got this in place? Got the plan in place? Yeah. Do you do testing? Yes. Have you got this? Have you got a governance committee? Have you got this? Have you got that? So you just go down through answer yes or no. I'm always surprised that no one digs into it further. So, if I was inspecting someone and they said they did a test, I would want to know, what was that test? What did it achieve? What was the outcome? What did you understand about it? What have you improved about it? No one, to my mind, ever really digs enough. It seems to be, hey, if you've ticked all these boxes, you have this program in place, and if you've got this program in place, you should be okay. But does that really give anybody any
It doesn't prove
satisfaction?
anything.
No, it doesn't. And what I try to do when I'm doing my internal reporting is say, hey, we had this event and this is what happened and this is what we learned from it. Or, hey, we prevented this event because we had such and such in place, or we tested this, and as a result we changed X, Y, and Z to try and demonstrate actual real things that you've done, rather than me just saying, hey, all 66 of my plans are up to date and signed off. Well, great, they're up to date and signed off, but does it really mean anything? Does it prove anything? Has it made the business better? And I've seen other people talk about this, and it's around how can we as a business develop some measures or a matrix or something that actually demonstrates what we're doing and what improvements we've made. And to use the word resilient, I don't really like, but have we made the business more resilient? What's your resilience scale now? You're 70% resilient or 80% resilient, or whatever word you want to pick to measure it. And it's interesting. I tried to do some research into ISO 22301 and try to find out whether there's any research out there that shows that organizations who hold 22301, if they're actually more stable, if that's the right word, than other businesses. Organizations that hold 22301, do they survive more longer term? Do they have less incidents than companies that don't hold 22301? But there just doesn't seem to be that research out there. I've done all my Googling, I've asked on LinkedIn, and people have gone, oh, that's a really good idea. We should probably, look into that. But I just can't find it. And I'd be really interested if there's anyone out there who's done that kind of research that says, hey, if you hold that standard, it does make you better. But it just doesn't exist. And then you start questioning why we have that standard, and if the standard's actually measuring the right thing, or is it looking in the wrong area? Should it be looking at another area of business continuity, and how we sort of say, yeah, we've achieved this. What are we achieving? How are we measuring what we achieve? Try and make it real, rather than saying, I've ticked all these things off this great big list here.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of interesting points to the audit checklist and sign-off type approach. Just because you've got sign-off on an updated plan didn't mean that the person who signed off actually reviewed the plan, or that the plan was exercised. But yet you've got a tick box, when in both cases maybe neither were done. It's more of a compliance. Okay, Richard updated the plan, fine, here's my sign-off. But it wasn't exercised. You have no idea what the changes were. There really isn't any management review. So sometimes it seems as though we focus too much on the process over actual results.
Yes, yeah, and I, for me, it's the actual results thing that's really important. Quite a few years ago, the business I was in at the time, we had to shut the office on a Sunday. So it wasn't quite a business continuity event, because we knew it was happening. So there was some change being done to the external power supply on a Sunday. And it meant that we couldn't even run our generator because of health and safety concerns about the balance between the internal power supply and the external power supply. So the power utility company said, oh, on the Sunday, you won't be able to have any power externally or internally. So locally, we made plans to use our work area recovery site on the Sunday. I mean, we had several weeks to plan it, so it wasn't a big issue. But we closed on the Saturday night in our normal office, opened at the work area recovery site on the Sunday, operated all through the Sunday, and on the Monday reverted back. Perfect. No problem at all. So I messaged everybody out, all the senior management on the Monday saying it had been successful. And then the CEO replied saying, "Hey, Rich, I didn't even realize that this happened. And this is exactly what I want." and to me, that's the whole justification of your program. You've achieved something without bothering anybody really, and they didn't even see the ripple. As far as they're concerned, the business, continued to work. That's your continuity. And I think it's events and situations like that we should try to be measuring. That should be what our audit is. Appreciate it's difficult to come up with matrix and measurements like that, but I think that's the road we should be going down, like measuring real events and how we responded to them and what we achieved, and looking at that rather than just saying, hey, because we've done X, Y, and Z, we're okay.
Is it possible we create our own compliance issues because we haven't got our message across properly to audit groups or internal or external parties or whatever, that's why we have to keep trying to prove what we do? So we end up creating these audit checklists unintentionally, maybe on our part, but because other groups don't understand what we're doing, they create all these checklists to try and figure it out.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's a very good point. We probably need to be clear about what we do. And maybe it is around using data. Maybe it is around using complaints data. This is one of the things I've thought about. Have a look at your complaints data from your service ops. How many customers complained that they couldn't do something because the system was unavailable, or something like that? Things where traditionally the business continuity field work with other departments. So that would be something I would expect business continuity to work with IT on. How many system outages are there? Have you reduced them over a period of 2 or 3 years? So to my mind, I think we should be tracking more real life data like that. Hey, 2 years ago, 10% of customers complained that they couldn't log onto our website. Now it's down to 3%. Those kinds of real meaningful things where it makes a difference to the CEO, it makes a difference to the stakeholders, it makes a difference to the shareholders, because you're actually trying to reduce something or improve something for the end customer.
And ultimately, for the business continuity professional, doing that frees you up from having to fill out 180 questionnaires and things that at the end of the day, even when you complete that, offers no value.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And if you can do one report, say every 3 months, that has some meaningful data in it that shows you what you've done and what you've achieved, that others in the business derive value from, then that's your quarterly report, and that should suffice. Suffice for everything. Just move on, carry on doing that, carry on improving that data.
Yeah, rather than ticking a box. It might seem easier, but it actually doesn't mean a single thing.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on business continuity and compliance? Any final words?
Just one that always strikes me as a slightly crazy one, but it serves as an example of how these things can work. So I had a question once, a due diligence questionnaire on business continuity. And the first question was, do you hold ISO 22301, yes or no? It didn't matter whether you answered it yes or no, you still had to fill out the following 40 questions about your business continuity program. So, so what's the, so does the person who completed that questionnaire have no opinion as to what 22301 represents? Do they think it's meaningless? Or what the, what's going on there? Surely if you answer yes to that first question, it should then say skip to the end. You don't need to fill anything else out, because that is supposed to be the standard. It's totally crazy that we've got ourselves into that sort of situation as a business as a whole.
Yeah, and that could be because that person doesn't have a full understanding of what business continuity is. So they do an internet search, just come up with a bunch of questions, and there you go. Because we haven't really explained it properly to them. This is what we do. This is what it is.
Exactly.
Well, on that note, we've come to the end of our show. Richard, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on business continuity and compliance. We're going to talk again. We have another segment we're going to talk about in a few minutes. So join us as Richard and I talk about our third topic. And everybody watching and listening, stay prepared, everyone. If you like that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.